you join us and we continue what we started a few months ago. A new day, we are hoping for a new day for social reform. We're working together towards a whole new world for gender justice. So, on this program, we discuss gender equality or gender justice in our societies. Our conversations cover sexual gender based violence, identifying root causes, and seeking ways to address that and related issues by harnessing healthy and generally acceptable traditional values, systems, and practices. Healthy religious values and practices, as well as practical global values and systems for women and girls' equal rights. We hope that such conversations will contribute to change in mindsets and attitudes about women and girls' human rights and lead to a shift in our culture of impunity. So, we talk about women education and empowerment, women advancement, achievement, domestic violence and abuse, rape, sexual abuse, and sexual harassment, resources and support. Together, let us build a community to celebrate our one humanity. Our guest for today is Miss Massa A. Washington. Recently, our New Day community celebrated this great woman for her courage and her relentless advocacy for victims and survivors of atrocities during the Liberian Civil War. Please check out our Noonday Facebook page to read further on Sis Massa. Sis is short for sister. I refer to her as Sis Massa. But check out our Noonday page to read a little more about this amazing woman we have as our guest today. You can also check our Monuna Instagram page. We feature Sis Massa also on that and on my LinkedIn profile. So New Day is all over the place. So recently, Sis Massa founded the Liberia Women Advocacy to end violence in Liberia. She's supported by a steering committee of cross-section of Liberian women to address ongoing violence and gross violations of human rights ongoing in Liberia. She's a Liberian journalist. She's the former commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. She's a journalist, an award-winning journalist. I'm just going to go over a few of her awards. International Women's Leadership Award 2008 from Women's Campaign International based in the USA. The Liberian Woman of Courage Award from the United States Department of State in a category of the International Women of Courage Award, U.S. Embassy in Liberia 2008. Miss Washington is also one of several peace and women's rights activists featured in the United Nations publication on Liberian women entitled Women, the Right to be Seen, Heard, and Counted. She is also a clinical social worker and a mental health specialist. She currently lives and works in Philadelphia as coordinator and therapist for a non-for-profit substance abuse and mental health organization. Ms. Washington obtained a Master of Social Work in Clinical and Mental Health from Temple University, Philadelphia, United States or School of Social Administration, and she obtained her BA in Mass Communication with emphasis in print journalism at the University of Liberia. Thank you again, Sis Massa, for your service to Liberia, for your continuous service to Liberia. Recently, you even went to Paris, France, um, to testify. So thank you as you continue to help to make our world a better place.
Well, thank you, Priscilla, and thank you so much for your kind words and the profile. Thank you. Sometimes you are doing all these things, but you are in a moment for the greater good and society. You're not thinking about yourself. So sometimes when you have to, be in the public eye like this when people have to introduce you and read all these things. You sit down and say, wow, is that really me? Or is she just hyping this because she likes me? But however way it goes, we do what we do because it is the right thing to do. Every day is the right day to do the right thing. We don't do it because we want to be seen, or we were looking for a self-aggrandizement, or we want to be paid. We were doing advocacy in the heat of the war when there was no funding to be gained, when there was no writing funding document to get money. We were doing it then, and we're still doing it now. So thank you so much for this forum, and thank you for the new day, and also for FOL for always making it available, providing us a platform to be able to educate the Liberian people on what we're doing and what all of us need to be doing as Liberians to uplift our country with the different sectors. The other day we were talking about human rights of all Liberians generally. Today we're more specific. We will be talking about the rights of women and to end violence against women. So thank you so much, and I look forward to a fantastic show.
Thank you. It's always an honor to have you with us. So recently, I had even forgotten was sis, one of like you, one of my mentors to sis Porto Reeves tagged me in a post on the 16th day of activism. She used to once email, message me when something comes on and say, hey, little sister, I need you to do a blog on this issue. But nowadays she would just tag like it's like I need your attention on this issue. So then I remember like, oh, it's the 16 days of activism now. So I decided to call you to ask you, sis Massa, you want to talk to us about the 16 days of activism. What is that? What is the 16 day of activism against gender-based violence? What is it?
Well, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence against women and girls is actually a global campaign that was initiated by the United Nations in 1991 to observe between 16 days, of course, more than 2 weeks of aggressive public public advocacy and public awareness regarding gender-based, violence against women and girls. And so this was actually started under the initiative of the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time, to end the violence against women. The Secretary General of the United Nations has a, a program and a global perspective under the theme Unite by 2030, meaning that they are hoping that by 2030, the issues of gender-based violence and just all types of violence against women would have at least been significantly dealt with, if not completely eradicated. So this 16 days of activism was actually also formed under the umbrella of that overarching theme of the Secretary General of the United Nations global theme for ending 2030 for ending violence against women and girls. And every year, all countries around the world, or at least countries that are active with the United Nations, observe these 16 days of activism. Liberia also observes this 16 days of activism. They do all sort of different programs. Last week, the 16 days of activism actually started November 25th. So it runs from November 25th, which is the International Human Rights of Women, and then it runs into International Human Rights Day, which ends on which is the 10th of December. And so this year, the theme for the 16 days of activism against gender violence against women, gender-based violence against women and girls, is actually Unite. And Unite is spelled in all caps with exclamation quotation marks. And so for someone like me who just started, I just started an organization this year called Liberian Women Advocacy to End the Violence in Liberia. We started an organization as a call to service based upon what's been happening in Liberia. We've noticed that in the past, I mean, there's always been gender-based violence against Liberians, but for some reason or another, it seems like is increased over the last 4 years. And I mean, every day you wake up, you see stories of women being, violently raped or they killed, even babies as young as 3 months, 7 years, and stuff like that. So it was against that background that we came together, me and other Liberian women came together and said we need to do something. We know there are a lot of groups out there that are working towards the same thing, but we need to come in with all of our expertise to do something to just help elevate the narrative and the discussion. And this time, not only looking at what's happening from the standpoint of just being critical. It's good to be critical, but we want to go beyond just being critical. We want to be able to also be solution focused. I mean, solution focused. Being critical is part of the advocacy. It's good because you need to do the research, you need to be critical, and you need to lay blame where it belongs. But then after that, what next? So we need to get to that next step of trying to help Liberians find solution to the massive increase of gender-based violence that is taking place against women and girls. So that's why we formed LAWATEL, which is the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. So when you see that we've just came together about 14 Liberian women from all walks of life, Priscilla, you are also part of the group. You've been very busy, but you've been part of the group as well. You came to some of the meetings, via Zoom in the early stages of forming the organization. So when you see us come together as Liberian women from different walks of life, come together under that psychological cloud of unity, and then to see that this year theme for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is actually unite. How coincident, how fantastically coincidental is that? So it means that we, the women of Liberia, we're thinking ahead. We're thinking ahead, and our thinking capacity match, that of global perspective. So it's a good thing. But what it also does is that it validates our own unison. It validates us coming together, but then it also gives us the strength, the encouragement, and the motivation to come together to unite to help end gender-based violence in Liberia. So the theme could not be more appropriate for what we are trying to do as women of Liberia.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sis Master. So I'm going to so the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia, that Sis Massa talked about. Sis Massa started a few months ago, um, with some brilliant. I'm going to borrow our sister called War, she just wrote. My brilliant sisters, thanks God. So I'm going to say Sis Massa herself is so great. She has an amazing mind, brilliant woman of Liberia. And she was joined by, she actually, got other women of Liberia, brilliant sisters as well, involved with this idea. And today we have the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. So they released a statement yesterday in observance of the 16 days of activism. So permit me to read the statement. It says Massa, correct me please. How do you say for sure Lewatel? She's muted.
Lowatel.
Lowatel, thank you. So Lowatel is in unison with the women and people of Liberia in the world in observance of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Lowatel supports this global effort spearheaded by the United Nations to highlight gender-based violence and its negative impacts on victims, their families, and communities. This year, as the world observes this important topic under the theme Unite, it is the position of Lewatel that governments and societies the world over will continue to accord the needed attention and focus to this important issue affecting the world's most important population with the hope of completely eradicating this societal menace. Women and girls around the world continue to experience gender based violence. In Liberia, for example, social and gender-based violence continue, sexual and gender-based violence continue to rank high among societal ills. The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection reports that of 2,240 cases of SGBV reported nationwide in 2020, rape accounted for 80%. Why 16% of reported sexual and gender based violence were for domestic violence, with more rape victims reported in the 13 to 17 age group. The 2019 and 2020 Liberia Demography and Health Survey reported that 60% of women ages 15 to 49 experienced physical violence. The 16 days of activism against gender based violence begins every year on November 25th, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, until December 10th, the International Human Rights Day. The program was initiated in 1991 by the United Nations. Uh, so that's a statement from Lewatel. Lewatel is the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia, the one that was recently funded by Sis Massa Washington, uh, along with some other Liberian women who join in as members of the steering committee. So yeah, Sis Massa, I was so Dennis and I were talking, I was sharing notes with him, and I was like, um, my problem is I don't know, I'll just and it may just be me, but I think a few other persons, because I usually will read, like to read from other perspective that why 16 days? I mean, violence against women is an everyday occurrence. As we talk, 1 in 3 women experience violence. 1 in 3 women experiences violence every day, every few minutes, even in this United States of America. Much to talk about countries like our own country, Liberia, where we know the culture of impunity, how much it is that I mean, even here it's normalized. Why are we only having 16 days? And then I was like, well, but because it's a men's word, so we have to continue to negotiate with the structures and institutions and establishments that run the world. And for now, we can only negotiate 16 days to the UN because the great nations that fund the UN are mostly run by men, and women issues are mostly on the back burner. So we're still fighting for much more days, but I think 16 days is not enough. But other people will argue, well, it's just really to highlight the impact of the issue. But throughout the year, we all should be advocating daily, activists against violence against sexual gender based or gender based violence. What do you think?
Um, I mean, your concerns are, are well noted, but I think, let's also try not to like just literally interpret the 16 days. I think the 16 days is like symbolic of everyday advocacy, struggle, and all the fantastic work that women around the world, including you and me, are doing to highlight and also end, hopefully to end gender-based violence against women. So the 16 days is only saying we're doing this thing every day, but this day is the main day that we want to remind you that this is a situation and we're doing this. Because when you look at even the United Nations structure and programs they have for women all around the world, it's every single day. Here we discuss it every day. You have this show now, a new day. We created a women's group. We have women's group all over the place. So every single day, all of us, even at the schools level, the teachers, we have programs where that are gender specific and gender focused specific programs. So it's happening every single day. But I think it's good to have that one day that say, okay, we're doing all these things all through the year to address, want to highlight what is happening in terms of gender based violence, and then to see how we can find a solution. But this day is the day we want to remind the world that this thing is still happening, but we are not giving up. We will continue to advocate. So it's like you have the school year, right? The students go to school every single day, but then you have that one day in a year where you have the school launching. Oh, this is a launching of 2020, say 2022 school year. So the launching of 2022 school year doesn't mean that once they launch that school year that day, that's it. Then no more school. People don't go to school any day. They still go to school every day, but that one day you have the launching. So the launching is like focusing on the bigger picture of what will be happening every day in school, the curriculum, the PTA, and all of that. So I think that's what it means. I don't think 16 days means that it's only 16 days that they could find within the patriarchy structure to allow for women voices to be heard as they fight and as they advocate for to end gender violence against women. So I think we let's not interpret it literally.
Okay. All right. Because thank you, sis Massa, for that perspective. That's why it's always good to hang heads with great minds. And I agree with you. Um, sometimes Dennis will say, I'm playing the devil advocate, even though I don't like that. I tell him when it comes to my human right, there is no devil advocate in that. There is no negotiation about that. So I guess that's what I was putting forward. But I totally agree with you on these 16 days. We could get more days and we're still negotiating because we need to remind ourselves years ago, women were not allowed to do certain things through the same pushing and negotiation step by step. We're breaking through barriers and things are changing. So 16 days today might not be 16 days, 10 or 20 years from now. The next generation is much more aggressive because we're telling them, hey, as a girl child, you have a right. So yes, I totally agree with you. Um, I was reading reports from the World Bank, from WHO, and from other international bodies talking about um, the the urgency of this situation, and they all say this is a pandemic. WHO say this is a public health issue. According to the World Bank, and all of them, most of the international bodies, 1 in 3 women worldwide experiences violence against women, particularly from intimate partner. So, intimate partner violence is an issue, and then sexual gender violence. They are major public health problem, and they are violation of women's human rights. I try to reach out to the Ministry of Gender, uh, and I'm told that they'll get back to me up to this morning, that there are activities lined up for the 16th day of activism, and that tomorrow I'm going to receive the calendar of events. So I'm hoping that by the end of the 16th day of activism, we will have the honor of having a representative from the Ministry of Gender of Liberia to talk to us about the theme of Liberia, because I mainly wanted, okay, what is the theme this year? So I just got, we'll get back to you. I will get back to you. So hopefully, by the end of the 16th day of activism, we'll be able to hear from the Liberian government. Um, where's Liberia as the world celebrate or observe 16th year activism? How far have we come as a country, against this public health issue or pandemic, as the international world bodies refer to it? But in the meantime, it's good to have organizations like yours speaking and putting forth statements and still have the acts together for now. Now, I'm not saying that the Liberian government doesn't have, they'll get back to us. But I'm saying, at least for now, we have you with us telling us some of the things that are unfolding from your end. So, was is there something specifically in this period after you released the statement that you are doing? And I'm taking myself out of the organization because I'm interviewing you.
Yeah, absolutely. As we speak right now, my group, don't forget, we had our first symposium in September. It was really successful. We had three fantastic speakers. We had the Lieutenant Governor of Delaware, Mrs. Bethany Hall Long, and who was our keynote speaker. And we had former Liberia ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Richard William Deeks. And then we had Mr. Lawrence Kennedy, who is a professor at the Community College in Delaware, but he's also a financial expert. He worked with Morgan Chase in New York a while ago. So we had these three fantastic uh, cross section of people come and engage our symposium, and we had a cross section of Liberians and friends of Liberians as well. So after that, we have a work plan for the one after we left. We after that symposium, we had a meeting where we came out with a plan of action for the next 12 months. And one of the immediate uh, activities on our plan of action that we're going to be engaged in is we want to see, again, I'm not going to go into detail because of competition out there and stuff, uh, but we right now are speaking to pharmacists, pharmacy warehouses, to see how they can help us get some materials that we can use, that we will be able to donate to law enforcement, like maybe the police, maybe the Ministry of Gender, that will help support their work in fighting violence against women. Like, for example, rape. The entire country of the Republic of Liberia has only one DNA machine. And we know, those of us who live in the West know how extremely crucial DNA is in solving cases, whether it's rape, whether it's murder, whether, whatsoever. So when you have a country whose population is over 4 million, and you have this constant systemic attack against women, but then you don't have the law enforcement like the police and the rest of them, the investigators, they don't have all the tools that properly will help them properly investigate and find the culprits who are doing these things. That is a problem for us, because a lot of the cases were thrown out of court because they didn't have evidence, because law enforcement, one, lacks the requisite training to gather the evidence and preserve evidence. Two, they don't have materials and equipment, like they don't have a DNA machine, they don't have the proper equipment and stuff to be able to store the DNA in forensic. So that whole aspect of forensic for our law enforcement is extremely weak. So those are some of the areas that my group is looking at. Because you see, we don't only want to just highlight the problem and then also condemn, government for not doing much. We want to say, okay, we're going to call you, we're going to do the research, we're going to highlight the problem, we're going to call you out, but then we also want to be part of the solution. We don't want to just complain. We want to be part of the solution. And part of the solution is, we've looked in the Liberian society, we've looked at law enforcement, we're still doing more in-depth research, and we're looking to see, okay, how can we help? How do we help enhance their own strength and their own capabilities to do the work more effectively, so we can be able to solve some of these issues that are taking place. I would just say quickly, Priscilla, When I was looking back at my past notes, we've had more than 13 women that have been killed just within the past 3 years, suspiciously. But more than that, I have not even included all of the counties. But these ones were the ones that were most profound in terms of, and then they were most popular in terms of the publicity that they got from the public. So imagine Princess Cooper, who, she was one of the latest victims, the young girl, the beautiful young girl who was found dead in the compound of, I think was a either Lebanese or Indian merchant or so. No health right now with our situation. There's been no solution. And more Elliott, the immigration officer, the lady who was killed. And then Gifty or Lama. I knew the little girl personally because she was friends with my younger sister. They worked together. They were all young professionals. This girl was sharp. She was a U.S. scholar. She came to the United States on a special young global young leader or seminar, and
Mandela, Mandela Scholar, Mandela
exactly.
Scholar,
Yes, she came with my little brother at the
leadership
time. 'Cause
scholar.
my little brother came on that Mandela global thing. I mean, enterprise in every school she went, she tapped and stuff. And this little girl, you know, I'm saying this little girl because I'm older than her, but she was a young lady. So Gifty just died, crazy like that. And we talked and we made noise, but her situation is still unresolved. And then you had Elizabeth Robert, the woman from Maryland County. Then you have Madam Howard from Grand Creek County, whose body was found, you know, in the stream somewhere. And then you have Afua Williams from District
Hmm.
9 County. Then you have Manoa from Johnsonville. Okay. And then Odell Sherman. Odell Sherman was one of the most popular one. Odell Sherman was the one concerning the so-called pastor, where she died. They say she fell from the stairs. But this was in the compound of the pastor. And rumor has it that he was friends with her. And then of course then you had one of the most troubling one was the 7-year-old just this year who was found uh, raped and murdered and body in an open septic tank where her parents had dropped she and her sibling off to their grandmother, for baby to babysit them while her parents went to work. The parents did this every day. Every morning they take their 3 kids, the little girl plus her younger siblings, and drop them off to grandma. And they come from work, they pick their kids up and they go home. But this day, grandma ran out of Pampers for the baby, as we understood. So she just sent the child right there to the corner store. The neighborhoods are very congested. And she sent the child there all the time to quickly get things. Everybody knows her grandchildren. And just within that split second, the little girl disappears. And they're looking for her
Hmm.
everywhere. And they finally found this child in an open septic tank. She had been brutally raped. Right now, the
Ah,
case is resolved. Nothing has happened. The case is still unresolved. So for us now, we my group is going to be focusing on resolution. How do we help law enforcement? How do we help uh, the families investigate and bring some closure to this in terms of the forensic, in terms of getting the evidence, gathering the evidence, and to be able to apprehend the culprits so that there can be some justice and closure for the family, but then also so that the society can be safe. Because these people who are committing these murders and rape against, these girls and women and babies, they are in the community. They are still in the community. It's scary. Some of them are family members. Some of them are in the homes where they perpetrated the crimes and they have not been caught. So they are there. It's just a matter of time. Again, we know that every time statistics has proven that every time a crime takes place and nothing happens, it's an incentive for future will be copycats crimes. Sometimes the same perpetrator has gotten away with it and he will perpetrate that crime again at another time. He's just waiting for his next bit. So we want to be able to help, to help law enforcement gather evidence and to help them actually solve these cases is one of the areas that we're looking at. So we're working on something very soon. We will be doing something good that will help the country. But it was interesting that you spoke about um, You spoke about the statistics of at least the US statistics that said three women died every day from sexual violence.
Affected. The World Bank and the WHO and other international
Right, right.
organizations.
So when I was doing a little research for this last night, I came upon the UN most recent stats. So according to the United Nations, an intimate partner or relative killed 45,000 women and girls in 2021 around the world
Just
alone.
last year.
So just
Mhm.
last year in 2021 alone, 45,000 women and girls were killed by intimate partners and relatives. So intimate partners mean either their boyfriends or their partner that they live with or their husbands. 45,000. That's the staggering number. And then this means that more than 5 women and girls were killed every hour by a family member. So imagine every hour around the world, more than 5 women or girls were killed by intimate partners. So this report also states that African women and girls are at high risk of gender-based violence, of gender-based related killings by family members than any other woman group around the world. And I actually took these stats from the Action Aid or website. You know, I like to, our girl Koto is there, so I always go on their website to get some latest information. Now, what is also interesting is that under this global theme of unite to fight gender-based violence is also the overarching theme of uniting to end femicide. Now, if you know, femicide is the killing of a woman or girl, particularly by a man on account of her gender. And it is now being defined globally as a hate crime. So people, men and guys who want to be killing women now because of our gender that we were born with, just know that it's now do a hate crime. You will be treated according to the laws, but you will be processed for hate crime. Now, just very quickly, the United States of America right now is dealing with this issue of what's her name, Shakila Robertson. I think you followed her case. Shakila Robertson was killed in Mexico. She and some of her friends went to Mexico on holidays or vacation whatsoever, and she was found dead. And the Mexican authorities now working with the U.S. authorities have now declared her investigation as a hate crime, international hate crime, because it's a femicide. When she was being murdered, one of her friends who also went with her, she was murdered by friends, allegedly. One of the friends, who was a guy, was recording everything on his camcorder. He was recording he was recording it when other friends in the group attacked her and they were choking her and they were allegedly killing her. He was recording it, the guy. And so now it's being considered a hate crime. The investigation is still going on. They haven't concluded yet. But just to say how seriously the world is now taking this issue of gender-based violence and femicide. So
Thank
for people who want to be murdering women because you think uh, the women, we are the weaker sex, we are stronger, so you can just deal with us. Just know what you will be up against. You kill a woman now, you you're going to be processed and investigated for hate crime, and there's a bigger penalty that goes with that.
thank you, sis Massa. I agree with you totally. Um, and I'll just add that, I think killing is the extreme, is a very, very extreme, or maybe not even, maybe we consider it the extreme, but violence against a woman um, may not, sometimes do not result to physical death, but it's also a crime. and is committed, according to the World Bank. Most of the violence is intimate partner violence, and worldwide, almost one third, which is 27% of women and girls under age between 15 to 49 years have been in a relationship, report that they've been subjected to some form of physical or sexual violence by their intimate partner. And the WHO says this affects women's physical, mental, sexual, and reproductive health. So you may not kill her physically, but it also harms women and girls physically, mentally. Mental health is expensive to treat. I can tell you, if who have to spend money. Sometimes your insurance does not want to even cover your therapy session. It go very long and far in a woman or a girl's life. And it affects her sexual reproductive health. She may get raped, or there are some of the guys who are very violent and kick in a woman when she's pregnant, or even when she's not pregnant. Just I've you know I have worked alongside women even from Liberia to here now, and that I'm with Call to Peace that I did 1 year domestic violence advocacy training with. You hear stories of a guy stepping on a woman's back, and before she gets to the hospital and they go through that, her reproductive system is completely, organs are completely damaged. So those cases exist. And then rape may result to HIV transmission, or other sexual illness and diseases, the transmission of other sexual illness, because a guy may just feel too proud to use protection. And the other thing that has become a crime now is shedding. Shedding is having sex with a woman and you have the intention of trapping her into a long-term relationship with you. So you remove the or you break the condom in the middle of sex just to get her pregnant and get her trapped. Especially now that abortion is a contentious issues right now. So a woman who gets pregnant without intending to now is trapped with an abusive person, just because uh, to get her he acted nice for a month or two or three or six, and then finally show his true color when she's in love with him or she found herself in a situation. So yeah, so the stats are staggering, like sis Massa said, worldwide. Femicide basically gets its I was going to talk about that recently when they had the International Sons Day. And last year again, someone approached me, oh, you're not sharing celebrating your son. I'm like, if my son doesn't know he's loved, if it takes this day for him to know, he better feel unloved. Because this International Day of the Girl Child has a history. Boys, it is not recorded that boys, children are being killed. But femicide is a killing of a child just because it's a girl. So it has its root from India, where people go to do ultrasound, and if it's a girl, they abort the pregnancy. Uh, and because of the dowry, expensive, because girls are considered burdens. So around the world, girls are killed, babies are killed just because of their gender. And places like Mexico, or like you just mentioned the case of that case, people are killed because they are girls, they are women. But actually, babies are aborted because of that gender. So some of these things we celebrate, we need to try to look beyond why they became, why we celebrate them. So I'm glad that you mentioned the case of the femicide, when we're going about trying to be put and sharing, celebrating our sons. Let's understand that these are counter celebration, because I wouldn't even call them celebration. They're just counter action to real and serious issue, because the world body say let's celebrate the girl child to tell the world that girls are equally important. Some group come out and say then we'll celebrate boys too. It's the same way where you know some white people will come out and say, well, blue life matter too, because the black people say no, we're being killed, or all life matters. So we got to be careful when we're celebrating some of these things. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Because recently again I heard how the president of Liberia, some group trying to organize MEFA, because they have FIJA, Female Journalists Association. Like, we're talking about serious issue of you live in a world where women and girls are disadvantaged at all level. Do we really want a better world for everyone? Can we really just come together like this team is saying, unite, unite? Do you want to make a difference in the world, or do you just want to be on the other side to counter issues just because you can, just because you can? So yeah, I wanted to clarify, I wanted to add on that femicide issue when I brought in all of that. But thank you for sharing that, sis Massa.
Yeah,
um
so it's good that you mentioned the situation with the press union allegedly now wanting to start their own male,
they say some guys, yeah,
some guy male, yeah, some guy male version of a female journalist association, whatever it
yeah,
is. The press
Male
union,
Journalists Association.
yes, I'll correct that,
Male
because
Journal-
part of the reason why the 16 days activism against gender-based violence um, is held every year, even though every day of the year we are doing something, towards educating people and sensitizing the public about that. It's because of the huge backlash and outcry against um, feminist in the feminist movement. So you can see where it's being reported all over the place, where some feminist organizations are being attacked by anti-feminist groups. Women rights advocates are being attacked, are being maligned. In some quote unquote lesser situations, they've been maligned by they've been maligned, and they've been people being writing things and insulting them, trying to shame them, trying to shut them up. So this situation of this person who is a male journalist in Liberia wanting to now start his own male journalist association, whatever it is, it's just another subtle form
of
of
fighting against
yeah,
women
of fighting women's, trying to shut us down.
against them.
And then also anti-feminism. It's a subtle form of it. So people may not see it as anything. It may sound from the beginning, it may sound and look hilarious and harmless. No, it is harmful because it
It
is the
is,
idea,
yes.
it's the mindset. So while we know that there are unique and minor cases of men, who have experienced gender-based violence at the hands of females for whatever reason, but that's not the overall action or story here. The people who historically experience gender-based violence is women. This is why we're making the case. And you just rightly stated when you gave an example with what's happening with with the babies in India, where even before women are born, they are
Yes, yes.
targeted. They are segregated against even before we are born. But even in Africa, we know that a woman may she may give birth to a girl when her husband actually prefer a male son, because he wants his male son to quote unquote continue his legacy, or would be prince or whatsoever. So you see, it's happening everywhere around the world. So it's good that you mentioned that.
Thank you. I'm going to read a few comments and then we will come to close because we want to stay on 1 hour, and then we will ask our audience to join us next Sunday. So someone here Um, Francis, is it Francis? Let me see. Francis Francis C. Wilson says totally. Oh, that's focused on Liberia. Uh, Francis C. Wilson, no, Focus on Liberia say, Francis C. Wilson totally agree. Women also need to support other women. I have read many derogatory comments on our women when speaking about other women. Uh, okay, what was Francis' statement that Focus on Liberia is agreeing to? Francis C. Wilson said, when you speak of the crab in the barrel analogy, when all the crabs in that barrel are female, that battle is more vicious than any. All right, let's see what our sister Jackie said. Says Jackie say our women remained silent when Senator Milton TJ submitted a bill to make rape a bailable offense. Oh my God. Um, and then let me read. Weber says, I will just read it together, says Massa, then you take it so that we can wrap up. Remember, you and I talk behind the scene, we'll just end at 1 hour. Do you think politics, so Weber said, Pro say, do you think politics is hindering any effort to tackle gender based violence in Liberia? Liberian women are politically divided. All right, do you want to? If you don't want to address any of these, that's fine. You can just give us your closing uh, statement or parting comments. Otherwise, if you want to, uh, feel free to do it. If you can do it in the next 2 minutes, so we can end in 4 minutes, that would be great. You're on mute.
Yeah, sure. So let me just go back to Francis Wilson. I've actually completely agree with what Francis Wilson. I don't know whether Francis is a male or female. I'm sorry, I don't know the gender. So,
Frances, I think it's
let me
a
see.
female.
Oh, the
Frances.
female. Okay, I just want to make sure I assign the right gender. So I actually agree with Francis when she says that some of the most vicious attacks that she's seen, especially on social media, has been women against other women. So that crab in the bucket syndrome that she talked about as as mundane, and it seems to sound like a cliche, but it is still very important that we pay attention to that because we all experience it. We know. I mean, you have women who would be the most vicious, will insult women and attack women, and then and then Jackie made a very good comment. Jackie said, "Hey Jackie, that's my girl, my former classmate from St. Teresa's Convent. She was
Oh,
always,
really?
yeah, she was very brilliant. She was always
She's
doing
a
the whole class."
convent girl too.
Convent girl. She was doing the whole class all the time. Very smart girl. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
Jackie has made a very important
Small world.
observation with the situation with now Senator Milton Tiaje, who submitted a bill to make rape a billable offense when rape should not be a billable offense. He presented the bills, and well, some of us just wrote that, minimally. Okay, so we're not excusing ourselves, but we did not see the women of Liberia come out to demonstrate against it. We did not see the women of Liberia come out to demonstrate. We did not see the women of Liberia come out to make the rounds of the media with strong statements. We did not see all these social media influencers who are female, who are very strong, all these female social media gladiators. We did not see them come out to really address this Milton, the TRJ's Boca's bill that he presented. So it goes to say that we are also part and parcel of the problem. We are also part and parcel of the problem. This is why the theme of this year's campaign for the 16 days of activism unite is extremely important. It could not have come at a better time, and we really need to pay attention. And River Says Pro mentioned, he asked a question,
Whether it's a political issue.
what is up? And I think part of it too, I think unfortunately women have learned to play politics like the men. And this is why we're not really succeeding at the politics. Because when you look at the elections of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, I would think that part of the overall bigger picture of electing her, because we were there, and you said after that you said did a focus group and stuff, and I was part of it. And one of the question was, why did you vote for Ellie Johnson Sirleaf? And a lot of the women said we voted for her because we know that she would be different, or she would have been different, because the men destroyed the country. So we know that the men destroyed the country. The men have a history of messing things up according to our history. Again, I'm not trying to attack the men, that's just, it was just some of the respondents from our focus group, setting. So, but literally they were saying one of the reasons the women voted for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and wanted her to be president was that she was a woman. She would do things differently from the men, because being a woman, you have that female tendency, you have that female emotion of empathy, of wanting to do things right, wanting to get things done. We women in the home, you are the one who making sure the kids are up in the morning, they go to school on
That's
time,
awesome.
the breakfast is ready, the homework, you're doing the homework, PTA meeting, you there, you are the mom who is on all the different schools, association and stuff. So we get things done. We get things done, and we have good intentions. So the women said we are voting for Eddie Johnson Sirleaf for some of those reasons. But unfortunately, you can see not with Eddie Johnson Sirleaf. I'm not going to focus on the past president, but just generally, you see women in politics don't support other women. They are the most vicious in the opposition against other women, and even women who are not at the political table, like women like us who maybe are not in the legislature, in the Senate, or maybe we're not ministers, or we're not sitting at the table there, but we're also in the political sphere because we live in a political environment. Even as we interact with each other, and even as we discuss the politics, you see how we're all divided. We see how we're all divided. The women from this other political party, they don't know how to separate issues. They tear each other up, they tear each other down. Even just generally, when I was trying to put this group together, the strategy was to reach to all women across the board, because I didn't want it to be like a partisan or a clique thing, or what's you and people have small disagreement on Facebook. I don't think it means that person don't like you. Maybe that person just don't know you. They have not had the opportunity to know you, to interact with you, to appreciate you. So I come from a mindset where I always want to give people the opportunity to engage me, to get to know me, because it's worked. I know every time someone who, most of the time, people who really didn't know me and we had butted heads, whatever. When we got to meet each other and we discussed and we started to do things, say, oh my God, Massa, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to really discover you. So that's why I reached out to everybody across the board. But some people responded, some people didn't respond, and people have the right to decide, where they want to be, who they want to work with. That's fine. But all of that undercurrent political divide that River Says Pro talk about is also, or some of the reasons why women can come together to do things and have a greater impact on our societies. So absolutely. So all the points, all of the commenters are making here are salient points, and we do appreciate those points, and we do take those points into consideration.
Any parting comments?
Well, I would just say, I don't want to sound, so repetitive, but unite, unite. As when I was looking at the theme on the, because I'm part of the network with the UN Women, so I get the communication, everything, and I'm part of the network. So many other international women group and all of that. So when I kept getting all these emails about the 16 days of activism was coming up, and then with the theme and some of the women are doing globally around the world, other parts of the world, but you could just see the common theme and the common denomination here was, oh my God, we got to find a way to work together, women. We got to find a way to work together, because some of the problems that we're having are not unique to just our society, but except that with our society, we don't have that protection mechanism to be hopeful that some of these things are going to stop anytime soon. Whereas other societies have made great advancement in correcting and walking away from some of those stereotypes. But with Liberian society, it's like we take one step forward, and then we take two steps backward. It's because I don't know, maybe it's our nature. Maybe we just doomed in this place. I really don't know. But we, the women of Liberia, we need to be more tolerant of each other. Um, Whether we like it or not, we are a form of the proverbial Siamese twin in this issue with gender and stuff. You know, you are the closest person to me than a guy because you share my gender. You share my gender, you can easily understand some of the things that happen to me because some of the things that happen to me, they probably happen to you too. Even if the reason was different or the time was different, but most of the time, sometimes the incidents can be the same. Verbal abuse of women. Look at social media and even in mainstream media, people will actually insult women in the most horrible way, and it gets published in our newspapers. Actually, gets published. It goes to press. Social media, people can just say anything at any time to anybody, just insult anybody. I was just on the Focus on Liberia. I think it was on Tuesday, and we're discussing the war crimes trial and stuff. Like you said, I was in Paris, France. I was asked to go and testify as an expert witness on what was happening because I'm deeply involved in this quest for accountability. And so I was discussing this on the show with Dennis, and then this strange person that I don't know from nowhere said, "Oh, this woman on the TRC, she was corrupted, took money to take people names out of the report. My uncle told me so." I mean, people taking a dab at your hard and earned credibility, throwing out unsubstantiated lie in order to bring you down. But then sometimes when you go on some of these shows, you see how they respond to the women and you see how they respond to the men. If we were to take our time and research and do a content analysis of these different shows and these different programs and these different Facebook posting, you will see that the attacks, the vicious attacks against women are more than men. The men will hardly insult each other. But if you're a woman, even your co-panelists will shut you up, or at least they will attempt to shut you up or shut you down. It's because, psychologically, because you're a woman. They don't, in the first place, they don't think you belong on that panel with them. They don't think you should be even discussing that topic with them. And then they don't think that you should even know what you're talking about. So if you come across like you've done your homework, like you know what you're talking about, oh my God, it's a sin because now you want to make them look like they are not smart and they are the men, they're supposed to be smarter than you. So we see this happen all the time. I've been on some panels where you can just see misogynism at work and at play. And you're standing your ground with the facts, with the issues, and sticking to the topic. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. So women need to unite. This crab in the bucket syndrome, we need to try to get away from it. We need to be supportive of each other. All of us will not want to be at the same place at the same time. We may not want to do the same things at the same time because we are individuals as well. Even though we share gender, but we're also individuals who have our own individuals' interests and tendencies and traits and characteristics. That's fine. But when it comes to the bigger picture, we must bring our diversity together to work for our gender and to work for our country.
All right. Thank you so much, Sis Massa. I appreciate your time. And thanks to our viewers that join us today as we will continue with the 16 days of activism. Just let me quickly just say, since Master, you mentioned something about psychological. So not to make excuses for the issue that you mentioned about crap syndrome and all of that. Um, I was like, we can we relate? Can we connect that behavior to psychological warfare also, or a psychological result of the kind of society that we all have been socialized in? A woman lives in a man's world, so she has to survive. So along the way, she learns some survival mechanism that may not be helpful for her trap. I mean, her trap. I mean, uh, other women, but because it is a men's world and you got to live for men's approval, for there's certain thing expected of you. So we've seen that play out even in slavery, where you see enslaved people turn against other enslaved people, not because they hated them, but you want the master's approval. So I think it's a much more deeper issue than not meaning to downplay that women do attack other women, but what is the underlying factor? What is beyond that behavior? We can talk about it on another program, on another show. um I just believe that it partly has to do with survivor uh, um mechanism, or coping in a world that is run by men. But anyway, all the points were great points. All the points were great points. So I want to say thank you to you, Sis Massa. You got me thinking in a lot of new ways every time I talk to you. So to close, I would just read this what WHO says. Failure to address this issue uh, of GBV also entails a significant cost for the future. Numerous studies have shown that children growing up with violence are more likely to become survivors themselves or perpetrators of violence in the future. So, come back to what I was saying about the crab syndrome. Does it not have to do with the fact that women are socialized in a society from small, you know, uh, and battle against, so you grow up to be either victim of that or to be perpetrator of that. This is the WHO study showing that if you grow up in a violent society, you're most likely to be a survivor yourself and a perpetrator of the violence in the future. And who else you going to be violent against? Your fellow woman, because your society has shown you that's the better way to be big, because the society is a men's world. Um, but the good thing is that gender-based violence can be prevented. It only require a community-based and sustained efforts, like since Massa organization is doing, and hopefully our Ministry of Gender will come and tell us what the Liberian government is doing this year. Um, so because violence against women is preventable, as this year United Nations is encouraging us to unite. Let us unite in activism to prevent gender based violence. The team is unite. All of us are encouraged, get involved in advocating against the human rights abuse. We can do this simply by sharing information on social media, organizing or attending events like some of you have done this morning, joining us, or other activities that elevate the voices of women who are impacted by gender based violence. A new day joins the international campaign for 16 Day of Activism Against Gender Based Violence, along with the Liberia Women Advocacy. Sis Massa, I forgot like how she say in short, along with the Liberian Women Advocacy to End uh, uh, violence in Liberia. A new day joined this organization together with FOL to encourage all of us as we observe the 16 year activation. Let all of us be a part of this. Share something on your social media. Speak up when someone is being mistreated because she's a woman, she's being hushed up. Say something positive. Talk something to your fellow man if he's being sexist, if he's saying something nasty, if he's being misogynistic in your little corner. It's okay to tell him, my man, it's not nice to say stuff like that. No, no, I'm not going to laugh about that. It's not good. Let's just make a difference in a little part of the world. Thank you for joining us. Join us next Sunday. We're going to be on this platform with another guest uh, for an interesting topic.
Priscilla, just very quickly, let's remind everybody that we are wearing splashes of orange in our outfit because orange is the color for this year's 16 Days of Activism against gender-based violence. I didn't have any monochrome Sadic orange, so I wore my African. You can see the orange here. Priscilla wore her clothes. She got orange in it. So, hey, people, let's orange the world this year in observance of 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Sis Massa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for staying with us, sisters. Thank you so much. Oh, and brothers, everyone. Thank you, thank you. I could go on and read, but we're trying to respect your time now. So talk to you next Sunday. Bye bye.
We all love Iran.